Okay, good evening. Welcome to Curriculum Night. I'm not sure if I'm the first you're hearing or the last, but regardless, I hope you've had a good evening. I know this is not the typical way many of you have done it, but I hope you can get some information. And before I go through the class, I just want you to know that if at any point during the semester you have any questions at all, contacting me on the email address right there is definitely the easiest way, and I will respond to you as quickly as possible. Okay, so a little bit about me before I get into this elective class. My husband and I are married with 2 kids. We live up in Ortonville. My daughter started 2nd grade today. My son started 4th grade today, so they're getting up there. I went to Elma College for my undergrad and OU for my master's, and there's our quarantine pup named Leia. She's a Portuguese water dog. Okay, so this class is their literature elective. The next semester, your student will take the composition class, whether it's junior or senior year. So it's a survey course, and I'm not sure how they got the title because I don't necessarily love the title, but it is hard to come up with a title for it because it covers so many genres. You can see the list there: mystery, suspense, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. And we do a little bit of everything. We just started mystery. And what I explained to them is that it's not just about, here, let's read a bunch of this type of genre. It's also studying, the author's craft. So how this type of literature has been created throughout history and what authors specifically have to do to create in this genre and in this field. And so while I don't expect them to be writers in this genre because it's not a comp class, they'll have an idea. And when they read in the future or watch movies or TV shows, they should be able to point things out moving forward. During the suspense unit, they will get to do some writing. As a group, they'll get to create their own suspense script and suspense film. It's always one of my favorite units because I get to see some pretty cool movies that they've created. It's short stories and novels. Like I said, we look at the techniques, the ideas, some of the theories and assumptions and crossover between the genres. But they do get to use their creative imagination and see how authors have done that throughout history too. We provide all of the books, so they don't need any of their own copies, but if they want, they can get their own Sherlock Holmes anthology. Most of them I have found online now that we're doing so much on Google Classroom. I've been able to find full PDFs legally online. But we also read Murder on the Orient Express and The Hobbit. So if you do want your student to have their own copy, that is fine. I talked to them about all of these expectations originally, but I want to run it by you guys as well. Most assignments I do accept for a late grade, at least partial credit. The thing that does become complicated in here, though, is, and I explain this to them, is because it's a reading class, oftentimes what will happen, sometimes we'll read things fully together, but oftentimes we'll start it together, I'll get them going, and then they'll finish on their own for homework that night, whether it's the chapter that we're reading or a short story. And then the next day we review it. We sit there and we review it as a class in small groups or as in a big discussion or on the board. And so what happens is if they miss a day and they come back and then sit through the review, I explained to them how that becomes complicated for me then to accept that assignment if they just sat through a whole class review on it. So I emphasize to them that communicating with me is really critical. If they want to, if we're reviewing for 15 minutes that day or 10 minutes, even if they just jump out in the hall and work on what they missed while we're reviewing, it's about talking to me and letting me know what's going on. Typing their projects, that's pretty much a given. A lot of things will be turned in on Google Classroom. Late projects, that's, like I said, I'm flexible with late work, the whole D- thing. It's just about communicating and making sure they see me prior. They will do a lot in groups, so group work communication will be key. Luckily, that is made a lot easier with things like Google Classroom and Google Docs. Sorry, I keep looking over here because this is where my class is and I'm used to people sitting here. Extra credit. If they had me as a sophomore or a junior, then they probably already know this. But if not, and parents always like to hear this too, it's important to know that they can come see me for extra credit anytime. And I will find something pertaining to what we are doing for them to do. For anywhere from like 5 to 7 points, kids can do as many as they want. The only time I'll tell them no is if they have a bunch of other missing assignments because it's not a makeup for what they should have been doing. Or if it's the last week of a marking period or semester because it's not a quick fix at the end, right? So essentially the purpose is, if they struggled on an assessment in some way, or they missed just 1 or 2 little assignments early on or something, then I want to let them work through that. I explain to them that I feel like that's the way the real world works, right? People are rarely going to stop you from doing extra work as long as you're already doing what you should be. So they just have to be tracking things along the way and then be willing to come talk to me. Grading policy, we haven't heard yet what will happen with exams this year, but as of now, that is the plan. So it will be 45, 45, 10. Participation is really important in this class, right? Especially being a literature class, we're going to need people to read aloud. Like I said, we do a lot in groups, so I need to see people who are taking the lead. Why I say that is because at the end of marking period, I will skim through all the grades. Not skim, I will look at every grade. And if a student is right on that edge, right, a portion of a percentage from being away from that B or that A or whatever grade that person might need, if that individual is somebody who has participated and really helped in class, be a leader in some way, I will typically bump up a few points because I think that's very important. Everything will be on Google Classroom. The weekly plans, I put it by week. So all the eDocs that we use for every day, the actual readings, the worksheets, the lecture notes, etc. We will be submitting most of the work on Google Classroom. I've already told the kids if they prefer to print things out, they can do that here at school and then just take a picture of what they've completed and upload it. But I'm still playing this out as I go, but most work will be submitted on Google Classroom. The Remind 101 info is on there as well. I've told the kids not to depend on Remind 101 because I'm not going to be sending messages and reminders every single day, but it's still good to have if I need to reach out to them if they've been gone for a long time. Sometimes that comes through to them faster, or for reminders for big due dates, assessments, things like that. And I think that's it. Okay, so I hope this answered some of your questions, but like I said, please reach out to me via email if you have any other questions at all, or if you need help with anything throughout the semester. Have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to the semester.